Hey, welcome back to Play.com's Advanced Building Series. I am, as always, Brendan, Master Builder in Residence at Play.com. And today we are going to continue our intro series to Technic building. And what we're going to talk about is how to turn rotational motion into lateral motion. Okay, so this is what's called a rack and pinion setup. And a rack is basically a gear that is completely, it's been unfolded, it's flat. And what you can do here is you can turn the pinion and it moves the rack back and forth. And this is really useful if you want to build like a sliding door or something along those lines. You probably want to put something at the end to stop it, because if you turn a little too far, then the teeth don't mesh anymore and it doesn't work anymore. But you know, it's a good, simple solution which is useful in a lot of situations. So here's a setup that you'll see all over the place. Obviously you might recognize it from, you know, train engines and car engines. So it's a crank and piston. So the crank, in this case we're using this orange wheel here as the crank. The yellow piece is a connecting rod, and this here is the piston. And all of these are freely connected, and what happens is when you turn the crank, the connecting rod is pulling and pushing the piston back and forth, and you have what is called reciprocal motion. Okay, so let's say you need something like reciprocal motion, but you don't want your sideways piece to be constantly moving back and forth. You might want it to stop a little bit at each end. Well, here is a solution where you're just using pins attached to these two gears to push the sliding bit back and forth, and I'll show you how it works. It's one pin pushes there, one pin pushes it back, pause, pushes it forward, pulls it back. It's a very simple solution. But you know, can be used in a lot of different situations. Okay, this one's a little hard to set up right, but I just wanted to show it because it's one of my favorites. This is very similar to the crank and piston setup, but there's one key difference, and that's that it uses these two gears, which are set up in a configuration called a sun and planet configuration. And what happens is, as you turn it, again, you get the same motion as a crank and piston, but the key difference here is that the speed that you're putting into it, it actually slows down. So you'll see that the yellow beam, which is where the planet gear is connected, is actually turning at a slower rate than the crank in the back, which I'm turning with my hands. The key part about setting this one up is to remember that the yellow beam here should be able to spin freely around the main axis. The planet gear and the connecting rod should be attached and not be able to move independently of each other. Thanks for watching. That's all for this video. In the next video, we will be going back to slightly more conventional building with a very unconventional building technique, something called brick bending.